Hey everyone, my name is Annie, and I need to tell you about the craziest thing that happened to me last year. This story is going to sound wild, but I promise every word is true. Grab some popcorn because this is one heck of a ride. So here's the thing. I'm 28 years old and I've been living what most people would call a pretty successful life. I work as a marketing manager for a big tech company, make good money, and I've always been the responsible one in my family. You know that person who always has their life together while everyone else is a mess? Yeah, that's me. But let me back up a bit and tell you about my family. My parents, Linda and Robert, are in their early 60s. They're not bad people, but they've always had this weird way of making me feel small. My dad works part-time at a hardware store, and my mom does some freelance bookkeeping. They've never been super successful with money, which becomes important later in this story. I also have a younger brother named Jake, who's 25. He's the golden child. You know the type. He can do no wrong in my parents' eyes, even though he's been bouncing from job to job and still lives in their basement. But somehow I'm always the one who gets criticized. Now, here's where things get interesting. When I was 21, Grandma Rose on my mom's side passed away. Grandma Rose was the sweetest woman you could ever meet, and she absolutely adored me. We had this special bond that nobody else in the family really understood. She used to tell me I reminded her of herself when she was young, determined, and strong-willed. Grandma Rose owned this beautiful house in a really nice neighborhood. It's not huge, but it's got character, you know? One of those charming older homes with hardwood floors, a big front porch, and a garden that she spent years perfecting. The house was worth about $400,000, which in our area is pretty decent money. When Grandma Rose died, everyone assumed the house would go to my mom, since she was the only child. But surprise, when the lawyer read the will, Grandma Rose had left the entire house to me. Not to my parents, not to be split among the family, just to me, Annie. I'll never forget the look on everyone's faces that day. My parents were shocked, Jake looked confused, and honestly, I was pretty stunned too. But the lawyer explained that Grandma Rose had been very clear about her wishes. She wanted me to have the house because she believed I would take care of it and appreciate it the way she did. The thing is, I was still in college at the time and couldn't afford to maintain a whole house by myself. So I made what I thought was a generous offer to my parents. I told them they could live in the house and take care of it until I was ready to move in myself. All I asked was that they pay the property taxes and basic maintenance costs. Seemed fair, right? My parents were thrilled. They sold their small apartment and moved into Grandma Rose's house immediately. For the next 7 years, this arrangement worked pretty well. I finished college, got my job, and started building my career. My parents took decent care of the house, and I figured everyone was happy. But here's where things started to go wrong. As I got more successful at work and started making really good money, my parents started treating me differently. Not better, worse. It was like my success made them uncomfortable or something. They'd start making these little comments about how I thought I was better than them because I had a good job. When I come visit, they'd make jokes about me being too fancy for their simple lifestyle. At first, I tried to laugh it off, but it really started to hurt. The worst part was how they talked about the house. Even though it was legally mine, they started acting like it belonged to them. They'd make big decisions about renovations without asking me. They painted rooms without checking if it was okay. My mom even started telling the neighbors that it was their house and that I was just staying there sometimes. But I kept quiet because they were my parents and I didn't want to cause drama. I figured they were just feeling insecure about money and I could be the bigger person.
My friend Sarah asked, "Wait, don't your parents live there?" "Yeah," I said. "But it's actually my house. They've just been staying there while I got established in my career." Sarah looked confused. "So you're planning to kick your parents out?" "Not kick them out," I explained. I'm just thinking it might be time to reclaim my own property. Maybe they could find their own place, or we could work out some other arrangement. Well, wouldn't you know it, my mom had apparently been listening outside the door. She burst into the room like some kind of hurricane, her face red with anger. "How dare you?" she shouted. "After everything we've done for you, you want to throw us out on the street like garbage?" I was so embarrassed in front of my friends, but I tried to stay calm. "Mom, let's talk about this privately." "No," she interrupted. "I want everyone to hear what kind of daughter you really are. You're nothing but a selfish, ungrateful burden." That word, burden, hit me like a slap in the face. My own mother just called me a burden in front of my friends. But she wasn't done. "We've been taking care of your house for 7 years, putting our own money into it, making it beautiful, and this is how you repay us? By planning to steal it back?" "It's not stealing," I said quietly. "It's my house. Grandma Rose left it to me. Your grandmother was senile when she wrote that will. That house should have gone to me, and you know it." My dad, who had been quiet up until now, finally spoke up. "Linda's right, Annie. You've become this cold, calculating person ever since you got that fancy job. You think you're so much better than us, but you're just a burden who doesn't care about family." There it was again. Burden. My own parents calling me a burden while living in my house. My friends were sitting there in total shock. Sarah looked like she wanted to disappear. I felt humiliated, hurt, and angrier than I ever been in my life. "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" my mom demanded. "Get out of my apartment right now." They left, but not before my mom turned around and said, "Don't bother coming around the house anymore. You're not welcome there." The irony of being told I wasn't welcome in my house wasn't lost on me. After they left, my friends tried to comfort me, but I was done. I was done being treated like garbage by people who were supposed to love me. I was done being called a burden while literally providing them with a place to live. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything that had happened, everything they'd said. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. They'd been living in my house for 7 years, treating me terribly, and now they had the nerve to call me a burden and ban me from my own property? The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. I called a real estate agent. "Hi," I said. "I have a house I want to sell, and I need it done quickly." The agent, a woman named Patricia, was very professional. She came out to look at the property that afternoon while my parents were at work. The house was in good condition. I'll give my parents credit for that. And Patricia said it would probably sell fast in the current market. "How quickly do you need this done?" I said, "My parents are leaving for Europe in 2 weeks. I'd like it sold before they get back." Patricia raised an eyebrow, but didn't ask questions. "We can do that. In this market, a house like this should sell within days of listing." And you know what? She was right. I listed the house exactly 1 week before my parents left for the trip. I didn't tell them, obviously. As far as they knew, I was still banned from their house. So why would they expect me to show up? The house went on the market on a Tuesday. By Friday, we had 3 offers, all above asking price. I accepted the best one, $450,000, which was $50,000 more than I'd expected. My parents left for Europe on Saturday morning. They were so excited, posting pictures on Facebook about their dream vacation and how they were going to live it up in Paris. Meanwhile, I was coordinating with the buyers, the moving company, and a storage unit.
Here's the thing. I'm not a monster. Even though my parents had treated me terribly, I wasn't going to throw their stuff in the trash. I hired a professional moving company to pack up all of their belongings carefully and put them in a nice storage unit. I paid for 6 months up front. The closing happened 3 weeks after my parents left. I'll never forget sitting in that lawyer's office, signing papers, and getting a check for $450,000. After paying the real estate fees and other costs, I walked away with about $420,000. But here's the best part. I didn't just sell the house out of spite. I had a plan. With the money from the house, plus my savings, I bought a beautiful condo in the city center. It's modern, has amazing views, and it's 100% mine. No family drama, no people calling me a burden while living out my generosity. My parents had been posting pictures from Europe for about 4 weeks when I decided it was time to let them know what had happened. I didn't want them to come home to a complete shock. I'm not cruel, but I also wasn't going to apologize for what I'd done. I sent them a simple email. Dear Mom and Dad, I hope you're enjoying your trip. I wanted to let you know that I've sold the house. Your belongings are safely stored at Secure Space Storage on Maple Street, Unit 247. The first 6 months are paid for. When you get back, we can discuss next steps. Annie. Oh my God, you guys. The response was immediate and explosive.
My phone started ringing about an hour after I sent the email. I didn't answer. Then came the text messages. What do you mean you sold the house? That's our home. You can't do this to us. We're calling our lawyer. Then Jake started calling and texting too. Apparently my parents had called him in a panic, and he was furious with me. Annie, what the hell is wrong with you? He texted. How could you sell Mom and Dad's house while they're on vacation? I texted back. It wasn't Mom and Dad's house. It was my house, the one Grandma Rose left to me. But they've been living there for years. Yes, as a favor to them, a favor they repaid by calling me a burden and banning me from my own property. Jake didn't text back after that. The best part was that my parents couldn't actually do anything about it. They were stuck in Europe. The sale was completely legal since I was the actual owner, and their lawyer basically told them they had no case. When they finally came home 2 weeks later, they tried everything. They showed up at my new condo, demanding I fix this mess. They cried, they yelled, they tried to guilt trip me. My mom even brought up Grandma Rose, saying she would be ashamed of what I'd done. But you know what? I didn't feel guilty. For the first time in years, I felt free. I told them, you called me a burden. You banned me from my own house. You've spent years making me feel small and ungrateful, all while living rent-free in property that belonged to me. I'm done with that dynamic. But where are we supposed to live? My dad asked. I don't know. But that's not my problem anymore. You're both adults. Figure it out. It sounds harsh, but here's the thing. They did figure it out. Within a month, they'd found a nice apartment that they could actually afford with their combined income. It was smaller than the house, but it was theirs. And honestly, they seemed happier once they adjusted. The really crazy part is how this changed our relationship. Once they realized I wasn't going to be their financial safety net anymore, they started treating me with actual respect. No more comments about me being too fancy or thinking I'm better than them. No more taking my generosity for granted. It took a few months, but we eventually started having normal family dinners again. Not at my place. I set that boundary firmly, but at restaurants or their apartment. The dynamic was completely different. They asked about my work, my life, my goals.
They stopped treating me like I owed them something. Jake took longer to come around, but eventually he admitted that he'd always felt pressure to be the good kid because they were always complaining about me. Once that dynamic stopped, he relaxed too. Here's what I learned from this whole experience. Sometimes you have to be willing to lose everything to gain your self-respect. I could have kept letting my parents live in my house while treating me poorly, but that would have meant living with resentment forever. By selling the house, I didn't just solve the housing problem. I solved a relationship problem. I forced everyone to see me as an independent adult who deserved respect, not as a resource to be used and criticized. The money from the house helped me build an even better life for myself. My condo's gorgeous, my side business is thriving, and I'm actually excited about my future in a way I haven't been in years. Sometimes people ask me if I feel bad about what I did. The answer is no. I feel empowered. I feel free. I feel like I finally stood up for myself after years of being taken advantage of. My parents and I have a decent relationship now, but it's on my terms. They've learned that I won't tolerate being treated poorly, and I've learned that I don't have to accept bad treatment just because we're family. Would I do it again? Absolutely. In fact, I wish I'd done it sooner. The house sold almost a year ago now, and my life has completely transformed. I got a promotion at work, my side business is thriving, and I'm actually excited about my future in a way I haven't been in years. Sometimes people ask me if I feel bad about what I did. The answer is no. I feel empowered. I feel free. I feel like I finally stood up for myself after years of being taken advantage of. My parents and I learned that lesson the hard way, but they learned it, and our relationship is actually better now because of it. So yeah, that's my story. I sold my parents' house while they were in Europe because they called me a burden while living in my property. It was the best decision I ever made. What would you have done in my situation? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing from people who've dealt with similar family drama. And if you're going through something like this right now, remember, you're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Thanks for reading, and I'll see you in the next story.